you. God damn it. Did that
That came through.
Oh
catch
yeah.
it?
Welcome. Fuck you and good
Sweet.
night.
Not you guys, not at all. Welcome to the Horse Syndicate Discourse with a little bit of a fuck you at the same time, apparently. I'm Ray, Mary.
Yeah.
That's my name. Report me to Facebook, do whatever you want. But while you do it, enjoy a nice Fitz's root beer.
Ooh,
Um,
that's good stuff.
it is good stuff, yeah. Jared, Halloween's on a weekend. You coming up or what?
That could be fun, man.
Let's
Let's do
That's
it.
a request by my brother-in-law Jake. Tonight we're talking about John Carpenter movies. Why? Because Carpenter is one of the greatest, and if you don't agree with us, you don't agree with us. Tonight with us, as always, we've got Keith running the boards. I'm just going to say that for fun, make him sound important.
Hello.
There we go. We've got Seth in his G.I. Joe green shirt.
Hey, everyone.
He couldn't decide on a Carpenter shirt. He's like, I can't decide. Fuck it, I'm going olive green.
So he went neutral. I went neutral horror syndicate. And
You should-
obviously, we've got Nathan Thomas Mulliner wearing his tribute to Deborah Hill shirt, which I love.
Yeah.
Absolutely adore that shirt. And Jared, who's been with us since 2016.
Hello.
Gorgeous beard. So before we jump into the Carpenter conversation, which I know everybody's riveted to get into, first of all, if you're watching, tell us in the comments right now your favorite Carpenter movie. I asked that in my pre-show live session. I want to know right now what your favorite Carpenter movie is that's not Halloween. Didn't see that curveball coming, did you?
That's not Halloween.
That's not Halloween.
That's not Halloween.
Yeah, nothing's Halloween. But first, let's talk about. So the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is getting a new movie. Seth says it's a sequel. So we're gonna go through these kind of fast. Seth, fill us in on that real fast.
From what I was reading about it, it's gonna be another one of those direct sequels to the original movie.
Awesome. So that'll be three sequels to the original movie.
Who do you think you are, Halloween?
Yeah, to choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
That's what all horror should be. Choose your own adventure.
Who's behind it? I forget. Who do they?
Director of Evil Dead, isn't it? He's producing.
He's a producer, right?
Yeah.
Alvarez, yeah.
Yeah, they had a couple, I think, brothers that were directing it, and after the first week, they got fired, and they brought somebody else in to direct.
That's good.
Solo.
Come on, man.
Was it
If this were Star Wars, they'd be like, "Oh, fuck Fede,
Yeah.
Yeah,
corrupt.
Fede
He
should
fired the
just-
real talent."
He should.
I'm sure it's all Kathleen Kennedy's fault.
Oh,
They'll find a way to blame it on
it's
Kathleen.
Fede pushing his agenda.
She called Fede up and said, "You need to do what I did."
So then there's news I keep seeing of The Exorcist being rebooted or remade. What's the word on that? Anybody know? Is that true or is it just some bullshit fan poster?
See, that's the one I haven't seen anything official on that at all.
I keep seeing these posters. This is The Exorcist 2021. Something's wrong with Reagan. It's the same goddamn poster, but it's like I feel like it's too early for them to even have a poster. So is it?
It looks
Can
like
we
shit.
debunk this? It's not real. Yeah.
I mean,
Let's just say it's not real.
I haven't seen anything official about it.
Yeah,
It's
but
just
let's
like, well, it's just like you're probably about to talk about the next thing that was.
Exactly the next thing.
Yeah, there's barely any information
Unintended.
about that. It was literally John Carpenter mentioned it at like a class talk. He was like, it might be coming, and I might be a part of it. That's like all there was about it, and now it's everywhere.
Well,
So he's not confirming
I might
or
be going
denying.
they announced that a while back that they were doing Blumhouse is doing a new take on the thing, and that it's going to be based on Frozen Hell, which is
The book.
basically the extended version of the novella, because they just found like an additional like 45 pages of John W. Campbell Jr.'s book that he edited out so he could sell it as a short story instead.
Mhm.
So I think it's going to be based around that idea. So there might be some like new, fresh stuff coming with the thing. So that's why I'm not too concerned about it.
This will be the third.
I hope that's
remake,
the case.
No,
What'd you say?
I said the 3,000th remake of the thing.
There are thousands.
If does come to fruition, it would be the second remake,
Yes.
if you want to call it that. You know what I gotta say? Bring it on, Nate. What about you? How do you feel about some extra remakes here coming? Bring it on, right?
It's for the next generation. I don't care. Let them have their movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you know
I
what?
don't like. I mean, if it's got exciting filmmakers doing it, I mean that's the thing. Like John Carpenter was obviously inspired by Howard Hawks and the original film, and this is just the next thing. Hopefully, the people making this, I'm sure, like everybody from our fucking generation loves the fucking thing.
Right.
Like they grew up on it. Like we talked about Hills Have Eyes last week.
Mhm.
I loved the Hills Have Eyes, and he got to remake it, and it showed. So there's very likely that some diehard Thing fan is going to get to work with John Carpenter and make a dream film. And I'm sure they're going to hire talented filmmakers to do it. They're going to keep. I think they're going to know how important it is to get the right people.
God, I hope so.
I think you're right. I hope they
If it's still even happening.
It's still happening. And you know what? As horror fans, regardless of how much we may or may not like remakes, we're gonna watch these fucking movies. I watched Halloween 07, and I still watch it at least once a year, no matter how much I may not like it. May not. I didn't say whether or not I like it. You guys know how I feel. But anyway, okay. With the news, we actually had horror news, so we had to kind of cover it for a minute. With the news out of the way, let's jump into some Carpenter talk while Seth's dog jumps on his lap. So, how do we want to begin with this Carpenter? Like, when did you fall in love with John Carpenter? I mean, not the man, the movie maker, the filmmaker, the movie maker, the movie maker. I'm 10 today, by the way. The movie maker, you know. When
I'd
did you guys,
imagine.
what was the first one that really stuck out for you?
I think the first one I ever saw was probably Starman. For me personally, when it came out.
And mine was.
If I'm looking back at it,
I was 2, so that wasn't my first one.
yeah.
Mine was probably Christine or Big Trouble. I don't know which one was first, but we had both of those on VHS growing up, and I watched the crap out of both of them.
Yeah. Unfortunately, my first love of his movies was Big Trouble in Little China. Like, not a horror movie, but I just gravitated to that movie so much.
It's okay. It's a John Carpenter movie.
Jack Burton is the character of characters. Like
Who? Jack Burton. Me.
So I didn't know Starman was a Carpenter movie till later, but my mom watched that movie all the time. She loved it. I think she had a thing for the main actor. Was it Bridges?
Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, Jeff Bridges. I think she just had like the hots for him because we watched a lot of his movies in the 80s. No problem with that. He's a handsome fellow. For me,
Great actor.
You know, hell yeah, he's an absolutely great actor. Look at his fucking career too, man. I love.
I mean, it's second generation, man. His dad was awesome. His
Yeah.
brothers. I was just talking about a brother earlier because there was that reports of some woman being alive at the morgue
I saw that too.
Yeah. And my wife was like, "Isn't there a Tales from the Crypt episode?" I'm like, "Yeah, with Bo Bridges, where
I remember that. Yeah,
he gets his brother, and he's like embalming while he's still actually alive and aware."
that's one of the better episodes too.
Hang on, we might have to ban somebody in the comments because Chris Hall
Why?
just said he doesn't like the Thing at all.
We're not banning anybody. It's okay if he doesn't.
What
like
thing? What thing don't you like?
it. His thing in his pants. Oh. Yeah,
he's
so
beating the shit out of
back to me. Of course, Halloween is the first thing I recognize, but like I really started taking notice after I saw in '94 or '95 in the Mouth of Madness. I'm like, John Carpenter, man, this is a great movie. Who made this movie? And I'm like, oh, it's John Carpenter. And I realized, wait, that's the same guy who made Halloween. And that's when I started delving deeper into and then when Vampires came out, I was right there, ready for that one because I think that was the next one.
Like 98, 99.
Yeah, it was 98. Yeah, but that was so excited. I was like, John Carpenter's going to do a take on vampires? Hell fucking yeah. And his take was amazing. So, Seth, did you say?
What, your first?
Or were you just predisposed to Carpenter being born in the same year as Christine?
My first, well, Halloween, I think, was one of the first ones I was exposed to, and then Christine as well. And I saw Escape from LA in the theater when that came out. I didn't really start following his films until, you know, when I was a teenager, and that's when I started paying attention to, you know, the behind the scenes stuff, who's the director, who's the writer, who does the score, stuff like that. And I think after I saw The Fog, I was like, I need to see all of his stuff, and so I went through and I just watched all of his movies, and he's just his work has been sort of like inspirational to me. So
Is Indigo whining?
yep.
I was gonna say, what is that noise? I'm just
Yep.
showing some passion for John Carpenter.
Oh, you heard
That's
his
all that
name.
is.
Oh shit.
Oh, sure. Thanks a lot. There we go. This is our special guest for the evening. There we go.
What's your favorite Carpenter movie, Indigo?
So,
The Sixth Beatle.
Oh shit.
can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, my internet just said it was unstable. So
Nah.
anyway, let's go over some of his films. Let's talk about some of his best films, some of the fan
I
favorites.
want to go into
And
the order.
Let's not talk. Well, no, let's not talk about horror films. Let's talk about Assault on Precinct 13 and Big Trouble in Little China and
They
Escape from
Live.
New York. Those let's talk about. Let's not talk about They Live because
Hey, now.
yeah, you know, They Live is one of those that kind of teeters.
Rowdy Piper was a character too. That's one thing I think Carpenter is like known for, is like just having that character, like James Woods in Vampires. You know, like he just has that character, that the lead that
And yeah,
has
it's.
all the lines.
I was reading the chapter on him in Shock Value, which is a great book. If anybody hasn't read this, if you want to know about 70s filmmakers, in the horror genre, it's a must read. It's
still available or is that out of print?
It should be available.
I'm gonna look it up.
But he taught John Carpenter, as far as character goes, he was very taken by like John Ford and Houston and all them, where he said like he didn't think that character development was all that. Like you don't need to know this guy's life history. He said when John Wayne walked on camera, you knew everything you fucking needed to know about that guy. And I think that's his direction. So, and it's true. You watch the movies, you know who they are within seconds of the way they carry themselves, the way they're presented, the way he presents them, the way they speak. You know who Snake Plissken is as soon as he walks out. You know, like
Yeah.
this is a badass. As soon as he opens his mouth. We don't need to know his history. And they hint around the whole time. I thought you were, we know that he's famous just by the way people respond to him and talk about him. And we don't have to know what he did. It's always a mystery. So yeah, his characters he understands that. John Carpenter's like a guy just doesn't deal with the bullshit. It's very simple, very straightforward, and it works. And it's what he's always kept it pretty simple. And he's just because he's a technician, he's very scientific about why does this work and why does that not work. And he zeroes into that. And I think that's why you get that. Like he knows what he's doing. And he even in the book he said that like when he was at USC, they brought filmmakers in to talk, and Orson Welles was one, but Roman Polanski is the one that really made him. It was right after Rosemary's Baby had come out, and John said that he didn't talk about Satanism and Rosemary. He didn't talk about all he talked about was lenses and angles and all the technical stuff of why he chose this, why he framed it that way. And John realized after hearing Polanski talk that he goes, oh, you need to know what the fuck you're doing. That's what I got for Polanski as far as filmmaking. You know about filmmaking, not just what you like and what all that bullshit. So that's when I think John and that's what John is. He's someone who really studied the process and the craft and the do's and the don'ts and why this works and why that doesn't work. And he just a guy knows his craft, and that's out of Wes Craven and John. I always feel that John is the better filmmaker because of that. John was totally about the filmmaking. Wes fell into the filmmaking, but John was completely all business about it.
I think I agree with that. I think Seth would, because Seth's got the biggest boner for John Carpenter of anybody I've ever known.
Yeah, Seth knows all of it.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I'm not as into the filmmaking aspect of what Carpenter does as I am the storytelling and the characters. Like you said, I mean, his movies have so many great, like you were saying, Pliskin and earlier Jack Burton, like these great characters. Honestly, I don't think, and this is kind of a sin for a big movie fan like myself, but I was never a big fan of Big Trouble in Little China. I saw it late in life, and then I saw it again in last year, and I really liked it. The second time, more so that I like the damn theme song. That was so good.
Big Trouble.
Big Trouble, yeah. But Jack Burton. I mean, first of all, Kurt Russell. What can we say about Kurt Russell that hasn't been said? He's one of my favorites for sure.
He's our dad.
I wish he was my dad. Okay, I do.
Gotta be Star-Lord.
Seth, you got something to add about
Yeah,
Kurt?
well, a little bit of a combination of both of you. One of the things I really love about Carpenter is his technique, his visual style. Like when I was first watching his movies, I kind of came off of obsession with Hitchcock, and I was just really paying attention to how Carpenter does his movies, especially with Halloween. It's just such a beautifully shot movie, and the way he has everything framed and paced, and so I love that aspect about him. But I also love the storytelling aspect of him, where he doesn't do your standard film structure. He doesn't do your standard characters and character developments. His characters are all unique. They all have personality. You don't know everything about him. Like, in Assault on Precinct 13, there's this big mystery behind Napoleon Wilson, who's sort of like the prototype of Snake Plissken. And I especially love the way that his films end. They don't end with a happy note. There's always like this mystery that's left lingering.
Ambiguousness.
For the audience to think about and dwell about, and that's something that not everyone can get away with. I mean, even today, because a lot of audiences, they want to know everything. They want to have the resolution. They want to know all the answers of why this
Right.
and this happened. Whereas Carpenter, he was like, these are my movies, my way, and this is the way I'm doing it. And that's why I love his films so much. It's just the combination of the way he makes his films and the way that he structures the stories. And yeah, back to you guys.
I mean, one interesting thing you talk about, like Halloween and the structure and the pacing and the shots. Halloween is such a patient film to the point where it's boring if you don't have that music. They've always said that movie sucks without the music. But because John is a musician, because he knows, because a lot of filmmakers, especially, when we're starting out, we don't, especially now in this generation, because of the way film is, we think that everything has to be filled. Like every pause, every moment has to have a dialogue or some. But to make a silent film, to challenge yourself to not to take out, because like I did one of my second movie I directed, I got a criticism. There was a guy who was an Emmy winning writer, and he said there's too much dialogue. So I took that to heart. So the next one I made, I had no dialogue until like the very end. And so when you challenge yourself to think, okay, because that's, Ray, you could even being a comic book writer, do you ever see the Frank Miller Sin City issue where there's no dialogue, there's no words? It's like Marv going in to rescue a girl or something like that. He was challenging himself to, because that's what a comic artist has to be able to do, is to tell a story if there were no dialogue, if there was nothing to be said, and be able and to be able to and people could read it and follow it and understand that story. And filmmakers need to do that. That's why Hitchcock was so good, because Hitchcock came from that silent era where they had no dialogue and they had to think visually. And how can I tell this story visually? And I think that's what John does. When you look at Halloween, you could take out all the words and you could follow that movie, and you're not bored because he knows he's going to have this music there. You know, and I'm like editing a movie right now. Last night I was cutting the scene I did, and I had this kind of slow pacing, and it's kind of like you don't feel anything. But then I threw in some music from Dr. Sleep as a temp score, and oh my God, I was like just going crazy. It was like, this is, and it is like, I think because John is musically inclined and knows there's going to be something there when he's structuring and editing and putting those films together.
I have to step out for a second.
Okay.
My daughter needs me.
He knows that it's going to work once he gets that there. But that goes back to, like you said, the Hitchcock studying and knowing to be patient, and it's going to work. Whereas a lot of people are like, oh, I got to cut this. I got to go. There's got to be something going on. There's got to be some dialogue, or there's got to be something going here. And oh, we got to cut this out.
Yeah, and that patience, actually, in my opinion, that patience adds to the atmosphere of Halloween. You know, it adds to the suspense that's building up. You know, there's that long shot of, you know, Laurie walking away singing, and Michael comes out and he's just watching her, and it doesn't cut away. And I think that's great. You know, I don't like movies that are very choppy. They kind of piss me off, to be honest with you. So I prefer, you know, the Carpenter method of filmmaking, which I don't know if that would even still work today, but
yeah, if you can go without cutting, that's something Spielberg does too. A lot of people don't give him credit for it. Spielberg won't cut unless he has to.
Yeah,
he'll let the camera barely move, or if at all, and he'll let the actors move around. And you know, so it's an old style filmmaking that I do appreciate. Like I like to see that. David Fincher's another guy that doesn't do too much. He doesn't do a lot of inserts or a lot of close-ups, things like that. I think it's a discipline. It's easy to just cut around and trying to get. I mean, that comes from like the music video era when MTV came along. A lot of those guys were doing that became the style of what people became used to.
Yeah.
But now we do get guys who are channeling. You know, you get your Ari Asters and your Eggers and all these people who are using that, you know, the Kubrick type stuff, like John Carpenter type stuff, where you're being patient. Yeah, you're doing wide, you're doing push-ins, you're doing all these things where some people, unfortunately today, find it boring because they've been so ruined by video games and music videos and Michael Bay movies, where I'm much like a Michael Bay movie. I tried to watch, I think, Bad Boys 2 or something, and I'm watching it like the camera's constantly like moving and there's cut, moving. I'm like, there's no reason for all that. It's a guy talking to some people over a monitor. It's like the camera's all over the place. Like, like it's an action sequence, you know? And it's like, it's not, it's a guy communicating to somebody, and it just goes on and on and on.
To piggyback what you were saying, though, it's like, it reminds me of an old quote from basketball. Kids' minds are measured in nanoseconds.
Yeah.
Like once you get like used to that, like mind frame, like actually slowing something down, like, yeah, it just.
And then there's like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna cut you off.
I'm not saying everybody's like that. It's just like that's the kind of, you know, repetition that's been going on.
I just started watching it. Dreams was it the Last Dance, the Michael Jordan, Chicago Bulls documentary.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that. I want to see
Michael Jordan. Michael was like my biggest hero growing up, and so I, of course, like everybody in America, was imitating him on this court. So I was really big into basketball in high school, but I never wanted to imitate him. I wanted to know why he did what he did. Like Carpenter, why did they do this? Why did they do that? So why is he doing this? windmill shit. Why is it? He's keeping the ball away from the blockers. That's what he's doing. He's keeping away ball out of harm. And it's like, so that's what it is. So you learn why. But people will be flashy just to be flashy. Well, he wasn't just being flashy. There was a purpose behind everything he did. The fade away shot was to keep people from blocking him. It was all, there was a reason for it. And it reminded me of something Roger Deakins said, the guy, great cinematographer. He said, you see a movie now and you see this really cool shot and you're like, hey, that's really cool, really awesome. But why? Why did you do that shot? There's no purpose. It's just to be fancy. It's just to be flashy. It doesn't serve the story. It doesn't serve the scene. It's just to show off. And, real technicians, and this goes back to the comic book thing too. When I got into comics, Todd McFarlane was the big thing. Everybody, he was like the rock star. And Todd didn't give a shit about storytelling and being a comic book artist. He was a commercial artist. What looked cool, and it sold. And he was a smart businessman. He said, I don't give a fuck. I'm not gonna worry about that. This is what the kids buy. That's what I'm gonna sell. But I would see other artists who were technicians, and I think, they're not that great. But then I learned, no, they're really good because they know how to tell a story, and that's why they're so respected, because they know it's not about flash, it's about execution, and your job as a comic book artist is to tell that story, not to be flashy. And now, when I look at comic books now, I'm more impressed by that than somebody drawing real fancy shit, because anybody can draw a fancy splash page, but not everybody could tell a sequential story. Not everybody is a Will Eisner or a Frank Miller. And
storytelling is very important these days,
Yeah.
to me anyway. That's why Carpenter, I'm a fan of Carpenter. We do have a couple comments if you guys want to take a minute. Somebody said they haven't seen many non-horror Carpenter films. And then Braxton Gaither says David Slade is another one of those guys that use space and photography well. He also said, man, I'd love to be on this talk. I have some opinions about old versus new cinema. You're on this talk. Anything you say, we can read off. You're a part of this conversation. Stay.
And Brax is a really good.
To cut you off. Great points going all around.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's an artist. His dad's an artist. Yeah.
That is fantastic. We a wealth of artists. If Chris Hall's still here, he didn't get banned, did he? I know. Keith is calling for his head, but that's just
joking.
For.
It was a joke.
I didn't do it, Chris.
Yeah, Chris.
Blame Seth
we still
if it
appreciate
happened.
you. You're the one who said it. Why would we blame Seth? He said, and modern colorists tend to over-render the shit out of stuff. That's Chris Hall. He chimes in back in. And he's back.
And he's right.
So,
sometimes I look at modern coloring and it looks beautiful, but at the same time, there's something missing. It's kind of like the difference of seeing old school cell animation that we grew up on, like Disney and all that, versus Toy Story and all that. Like the Toy Story stuff is almost so refined and so beautiful that it might as well be film, like live action. And I still miss, Looney Tunes. I still miss Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I miss the look and the feel and the atmosphere and everything of that, because that's what the charm of animation was, that it wasn't reality. And they're making animation more and more real. Comic books are becoming more and more real. That's one thing I liked. Todd McFarlane did say that, there was that video with him and Stan Lee in like 90, 91, 92.
Right around. He drew a character for Stan.
Yeah, and the thing is, he was talking about, it was a drawing of a Ghost Rider fighting Hobgoblin in one of the Spider-Man books, and he was talking about picking them up. But he was talking about how in comics you need to exaggerate. Sometimes when like comics, the artists are drawing realistic people, like they're making them look too real, it doesn't work as well as like traditional comic book exaggeration, because these characters are supposed to be an exaggeration of reality. They're not supposed to be real life people. They're supposed to be bigger than life. To me, the only guy that can pull off realistic looking characters in a comic book and still be dynamic is Alex Ross.
Yes.
I'm just gonna say that.
Alex Ross is king.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
Come on now, Jared. You don't know who Alex
We've
Ross
turned into
is?
a comic book issue.
I almost got a Facebook.
I mean, we're this is my cup of tea here, guys. We're talking comic stuff, so let's keep it going.
Back to Carpenter.
I almost got Alex Ross.
This is a John Carpenter episode. Speaking of
it
comics,
is.
Chris Hall is working on Maniac 2 right now, so all right.
Oh yeah, the Joe Spinell version, or what?
Yeah. Ivan Press is releasing I guess a sequel somehow.
Avon.
Ivan.
You said Ivan.
Ivan. Come on, Mr. Fulci.
It's
on.
Avon.
No.
That's the way they pronounce it in the movie.
Avon?
Avon. Like Avon calling. So John Carpenter.
No, not those guys.
Let's get back to John
So
Carpenter.
John Carpenter.
That's why we're here tonight.
Assault
John
on
Carpenter.
Dark Star. Let's talk about Dark. Start at the beginning.
All right, talk about Dark Star. I'm gonna just turn my. Go ahead.
I've never seen it.
I've never seen Dark Star or Assault on Precinct.
A great movie he did in college with Dan O'Bannon.
Of Alien, Return of the Living Dead fame.
Kind of recalls like Space Odyssey a little bit. Like it kind of touches on those kind of ideas. But
And I think they were influenced by George Lucas, who was in the class before them, who made THX 1138.
who's George Lucas?
I don't know, some guy.
Oh God. Okay, I don't know that dude.
Little guy.
Yeah.
I don't even know who that is.
The ending of the
yeah.
movie is very heartbreaking.
Don't
It's a-
spoil it now. I have never seen it. Is it available to buy or anything like that?
You can find it. Yeah.
Should be, yeah.
Dark
It's
stuff.
Yeah.
It's a fun, very base. Like, I mean, you could tell they made the sets. It's a strictly independent film, and I think it's the only movie that John's name isn't above, isn't it? That's something we could talk about. Was John's knowledge of how important it is to be a brand and be business minded. Some people could say that his name is above the title and think that that's an ego thing, and it's not. It's to remind you who the fuck made that movie, so you remember John Carpenter. And every time I grew up, anytime I would see a person's name above a title, like, this must be important. That person must be important because his name's above the thing. And it does. It kind of psychologically makes you remember, and also it feels more important if there's somebody's name actually above it, and it's instead of just the title. But it's like, well, who the fuck is John Carpenter, man? This guy must be awesome. And it just became one of those things, like Stephen King's this, Stephen King's that, John Carpenter's this. I mean, he became a name, even if you weren't aware of it.
Movie?
No.
Come on now, it's important.
Nah.
I'm gonna do that with my comics. Ray Merrick's Operation.
I started, in the beginning, I when I did my comics, I would, just for that same reason, to be a brand. But once I got in the movies are made by so many people that it just felt wrong to do that, because there's so many other people who made that movie. So, but as far as John goes, though, it's obviously John Carpenter's movie. He didn't write anything. His fingerprints are all over his films so much with his music and his direction, and you could tell you're watching John Carpenter movies, which is a very important thing with filmmakers. Not every filmmaker does that, but he's one of those guys where you recognize it, and a lot of that helps because of the music that he does. But then again, he doesn't do music for all. Like, if you watch like Somebody's Watching Me, that movie is definitely a precursor for Halloween, but the music is like 1970s TV movie music. Like every TV movie that came out, thriller at that time, sounded like that. And that's what separates it. Because if you had John Carpenter's score on there, I think that movie would probably be bigger. I think people would probably seek that out more. I don't know how many of y'all have seen Someone's Watching Me.
I have not. It'd be cool if he just like decided to score it and you could like play it with the movie.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Rescore.
I mean, the guy that composed it was like a big composer at that time, but it was not John Carpenter. It wasn't his music. And that's what's kind of, but it is technically, it's almost like his dry run on Halloween. Like he was trying things and learning things, because it moves in certain ways like Halloween does, with some of the shots, the pacing, and the suspense.
Yeah, I have vacation coming up, and one of my plans is to literally try to watch all of his movies because I haven't seen all of them yet.
Yeah, you can find. I think they're all on. They're all on Blu-ray. You can get Dark Star on Blu-ray. That's what I got.
Hmm.
And on YouTube, you can watch his early student films. You can see the Resurrection of Bronco Billy, which he won an Oscar for while he was in college. You can see a movie called Captain Voyeur, which is like a little black and white short that he made. That's on YouTube. This is probably like mid '60s maybe, or late '60s.
Hmm.
But then, of course, we got. Well, we didn't talk about Assault on Precinct 13. So I know Ray hadn't seen it, but
I
Ray and
haven't.
Keith need to see that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Is it really necessary for me to see it?
Yeah.
Why?
I think so.
It's a fun siege movie, man. It's like, I mean, if you like The Thing, it's
Is it
kind
as
of
good as the remake?
I saw the remake once.
You're
I
out.
mean, eh,
Well, it's like again, it's a grindhouse type. It's probably John's closest grindhouse movie. Would you say, Seth? Like, as far as like that '70s
It was an
B
exploitation.
action, yeah, exploitation movie. That's probably
Yeah.
his closest exploitation movie.
I'd
It feels
agree
like
with that.
it almost feels like a black exploitation movie or a. I always thought William Lustig's Vigilante is kind of a good comparison. I know that some people hadn't seen that one, but it's kind of a Death Wish kind of film. It's kind of but it's basically his remake of Rio Bravo, where people are in a prison and people trying to get in to get somebody, and they're standing their ground against the outside gang mafia or whatever. There's a street gang wants to kill a guy that they're holding inside the police station. The police station is closed. It's on the verge of being done. And you get all the Carpenter rig. You got Charles Cyphers is in there. You got Nancy Loomis is in there. Who else is in it? Is anybody else from Carpenter's kind of? I think that may be it as far as his normal actors.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
Oh, the guy from Escape from New York, the weird guy, with the wild hair, the little skinny white dude. I can't remember
Kurt
the actor's
Russell?
name is. No, he's like the guy that comes up to him and says, when Snake first gets there, I think. Or no,
Yeah,
when he goes
the
up
bad
to
guys or whatever.
yeah, he goes up to Lee Van Cleef, right? Tells him
Yeah.
the demands or whatever. Yeah, that guy. He's one of the gang members in Assault on Precinct 13. And then the main guy, the Snake Plissken prototype, is the guy in The Fog who was with the coroner.
The corner.
Yeah,
Yeah, at the very beginning.
it's definitely worth your time. You'll actually probably really enjoy it. It's a fun movie.
It's a great
Right.
action movie, and it's got a great score. I would say it's one of my favorite of his non-horror works.
Will I enjoy
Yeah.
it as much as I enjoy Big Trouble in Little
Yeah.
China?
More, you're gonna love it more.
More, 'cause I don't enjoy Big Trouble in Little China at all.
Doom, 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 doom.
You are
All
dead to
right.
me.
Okay, Elvis. Let's get into Elvis. I
have
can't
not-
believe this guy made Halloween, Someone's Watching Me, and Elvis like all in the same year or some shit. It's crazy. Elvis is massive. I don't know how he did that. He must have been just tireless or exhausted.
Well, he was a workaholic. I mean, if you look at
Yeah.
his early career all the way through the late '80s, I mean, he was pumping out movies left and right. I mean, even
Yeah.
in what '95, he had didn't he have Village of the Damned and In the Mouth of Madness?
They were pretty close to each other, yeah.
Yeah, and then Escape from LA was in '96.
I think they were all 1 year apart.
Yeah, when you look at it, he did work
Wow.
very, very steadily, for 20 years at least.
Yeah, but I mean, I mean, like with like Halloween and Someone's Watching Me, like they were very small independent movies. I mean, they were shot within. They had like what a 25-day shooting schedule, and I could see where he put those out in that same year.
That's why he stopped. He's like, I'm fucking done.
And I remember I didn't see Elvis because it was a television film. I didn't see it growing up. I saw it maybe 10 years ago, and I never thought Kurt Russell would be a great Elvis, but he was fantastic as Elvis. It really was. And then you
That
get
got him the role in Forrest Gump.
Oh, it was. Oh yeah, he did the voice for it, right? In Forrest Gump. But that Elvis is a really damn good movie. It shows you that John could. I mean, again, he's a technical director. He at least, thankfully, was powerful enough to get to make his movies instead of just being a studio director type guy. Like if he'd been, 20 years earlier, he would have been one of those guys that just cranked out movies after. But because Elvis doesn't feel like a John Carpenter movie, it feels like what it was supposed to be. He did his job right. It looks like a television bio movie, but better than most of them. I mean, I'd say it's one of the better music bio TV movies I've seen, if not the best one.
I still have to watch it. I got it, but it's like a 3-hour movie, so
It's a long one.
Putting it off until the perfect time. But
Should we do a
Hope you like
commentary
Elvis.
on Elvis? We'll start at 4
You
o'clock.
You get Charles Cyphers as Sam Phillips from Sun Records, and you get a few of the regulars in there.
Sun Records.
So what comes after Elvis? Because I haven't seen that one either.
Oh, great.
Fog.
I have no interest in watching a movie about Elvis, to be honest, but maybe one of these days. Never cared about Elvis.
Watch it for Kurt.
Guy. My dad's probably seen that movie. Is Halloween next?
Halloween's before that, but yeah, I guess we could talk more about Halloween before we jump to Fog.
We'll touch on Halloween because we've got.
We're gonna do a whole episode of that. Yeah, and we just did a whole episode on the Fog. If you guys haven't seen it, go back and watch that.
Yeah, so we'll touch on those. Eventually, we're gonna do an episode on the Thing movies, but it'll be all three, right? And not 2 remakes, just 1 remake and a prequel. So, Halloween was his landmark movie, right? The one that really got him on the map.
Yeah.
But nobody.
It was like the most successful independent film of its time, right? Until
I have not heard of that movie.
Until like Blair Witch or something. I mean, it was like, yeah,
for 21 years.
Inspired an entire genre of film, slasher film. Although I have to mention that, USC, Dan O'Bannon made a guy named Terrence Wilkins, I think his name was, one of the students, made a movie called Foster's Release, which showed Dan O'Bannon as a shadowed figure stalking and attacking a babysitter. and the guy said, "Oh yeah, John took that from me, but he made it so much better." he said he's such, he goes, "I have no ill will for him."
It's kind of funny you mentioned that because in that book I have, that John Carpenter Prince of Darkness book, he talks about how Dan O'Bannon is a master thief and he'll steal your ideas.
Oh shit!
I think Dan said the same thing about John.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Creative minds will do that.
But they were really good friends, and they really were a lot alike. But John was the quiet, serious one, and Dan was the wild, crazy one. But they really worked well together and really liked each other and liked a lot of the same things. And but they said, everybody, if you're going to be in film, you have to have friends. And this is a very true thing. If you're going to be filmmakers, the people at USC, you have to have friends to get it done because everybody works on each other's movies to get things done. That's how you work in film school. He said, but you still want to beat each other. There's still the competition. You still want to beat the other guy. But that at the same time, I think that's a good thing if you have if it's a healthy competition. When you're helping one another, but you're also motivating each other to be better. Like, oh, did you see what so and so did? Shit, I gotta get back to the drawing board. I gotta kick that guy's ass. But you're not like wanting to hurt him or ruin him. You just want to say, hey, I'm still in the game, man. It's like a basketball game. Hey, you won that one. I'm going to win the next one, and then we'll bounce back and forth kind of thing. But you're motivated to up your game and work harder and be more creative and you know, that's why I always wanted to work in like an artist bullpen, like you hear like Warren Publishing had, or you know, like the bullpens at like Marvel and DC and all that, where the guys are sneaking over each other's boards and seeing what they're working on, and it gets them all hyped up, and then they just motivate you to go work. You know, when you see somebody doing really cool work, it motivates you to pick up your pencil, your pen, or your typewriter or whatever it is, and get to work.
Same here, except for I don't draw. I'd like to work
Look
with
at being
other artists, writers, and stuff.
Yeah, you get those writers like, you know, Lovecraft wrote something really cool, so now Robert Howard wants to write something better, or, you know, whatever. Then they would write each other, you know, write each other notes, and you know, competing with the guy who's on top at that time. I mean, it doesn't matter what the art form is. You're an actor, you see, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio kick ass in a new movie. You're like, I gotta do that. I gotta be that good. Whatever it is, you know, it could be any craft. You find the motivation by appreciating the good work of other people and saying, okay, I mean,
Scott, it's also inspiring, you know, like when I read like we were talking about Batman the other day, and I was telling you a couple of good ones to check out, and Scott Snyder's a guy that I try to not outdo, but you know, try to measure up to somebody like that when it comes to writing. I get it. So
you need that.
Yeah, you do.
You need to.
Is that why so many people copied off John after Halloween, you think? Because I guess that makes sense, because Halloween is kind of one of the one of the biggest, you know. So you
A
think
lot
about
of
it, what came
people.
after all these holiday horror films, Friday the 13th, you know,
April Fool's Day.
April Fool's Day, yeah.
New Year's Evil.
New Year's Evil's awesome.
Halloween's a movie that people constantly chase, and a lot of people mimicked it. No one's been able to match it.
Rob Zombie did a pretty good job
about it.
So
right from your heart.
I want to give a quick shout out to Seth Amber for mentioning Gunship. They're a synthwave band, and John Carpenter actually did like a narrative during their songs, one of their songs, and that's cool that she knows that, because I love synthwave music. So tell her thank you, Seth.
Well, she might be watching.
Yeah, I think she's watching. So
it's a song called Tech Noir. Like, yeah, they have a bunch of music on YouTube, and they're actually one of the better synthwave bands. Like, for anybody that's listening, I don't know if you know what synthwave is, but it's kind of like a recall to the old synth style music from the 70s and the 80s. And, you know, you have music that's like something from straight out of Miami Vice. You got something that's straight out of a horror movie. Like, it's kind of a resurging style of music, and I'm very
every indie horror movie nowadays has it.
Yeah, thank you, Nicholas
Drive.
Griffin.
Yep, Drive. Yep, thank you.
That's what started it, man. When Drive came out, that's what everybody does. So it's a point where I always joke with Rocky Gray. I'm like, I bet 99% of the people who come to you want a fucking synth score. And he's yes.
It's any independent horror movie has a synth score these days.
Yeah. Which I am not mad at.
Is your movie gonna have a synth score, Nate?
No, I'm going old school. I'm going like, you know, John Williams and, you know, Jerry Goldsmith and that type of route.
I want off the Batman theme from
my movie doesn't fit that. Like it's a southern fried, you know, Southern Kentucky rural country. Like a synth score would sound really weird on my movie. It has to fit the right movie. That's the thing. Right. You have to be to use a synthwave music. You gotta have a certain tone. I mean, it just creates a certain tone.
So, and I think it's funny that there's actually a synthwave band out there called Carpenter.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Completely, you know, like emulizes his work.
Wear your heroes on your sleeve. So what are we
I
on?
just didn't have-
The Escape from New York is next.
So we skipped over the fog.
Well, we're gonna do we did a whole episode on that. So
Let's talk about it for an hour and a half, real fast.
okay, only got like a half hour left.
Yeah, Escape from New York would be the next one.
I love that
It's
movie.
good. I just rewatched Escape from New York. What was that? A couple weeks ago, because I hadn't seen it in so long. I had very little memory of it, and it's still a pretty decent movie, action movie, but it's extremely dated now. So I don't have much to say because I didn't watch it as much when I was younger.
But I think you gotta look at the time it was made, 81. I mean, this is before Terminator. This is before, like, it's. I mean, yeah, you could see the miniatures and the matte paintings, but there's a really cool charm to that. But what still makes it so great is just the characters. I mean, just so many colorful characters. I mean, you got fucking Isaac Hayes as a villain. I mean, yeah, Lee Van Cleef being a badass. Who's
Lee is really good.
yeah, and Donald
Tom
Pleasance
Atkins
playing
is
the president of the United States.
President. His
Um,
accent is not very good, by the way.
oh
Am I the only one that picked that up? It's like
yeah,
it's like a guy. It seems like a British person trying to do an American accent poorly. I love
Yeah.
Donald, but it was rough.
yeah. I'll give you that. And then Nick Castle is someone that people don't really give enough credit to, as far as, I mean, they went to college together. He co-wrote that movie with him. He co-wrote a lot of stuff with John. He didn't just play the shape. A lot of people know Tommy Lee Wallace, was his art director and editor and all around MVP of John Carpenter movies. But Nick Castle also, I don't think gets enough credit for what a talent he was. I mean, I love The Last Starfighter to death. I think it's the closest non-Spielberg movie I've ever seen.
I don't know. I mean, Escape from New York, yeah, it is a little dated, but to me, it's a really fun action movie. Like you said, a lot of colorful characters, and I love both of those movies. I know that Escape from LA is not a very popular movie at all, but like I just love Snake. I love his attitude, and I love how both movies end with him fucking over the fucking over the presidents.
Yeah.
Cool movie.
The end of Escape from LA is so good. It's got taken by another director.
And yeah, I mean, it's as corny as Escape from LA, like the god awful CGI work in that. You still got Peter Fonda as a surfer, and you got Pam Grier as a transsexual, and you got Steve Buscemi as the weasel that we all love him to be, and Bruce Campbell as Matt's the star. And then again, Bruce Campbell in a Snake Plissken. What was it? Was it that movie that like Kurt Russell came up to him and said, "Work shed"? Isn't that the story?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. When Kurt got introduced to Bruce, he just went. Bruce is like, "Work shed."
Yep.
Yeah.
I think they actually mentioned that. I got the Scream Factory collector's edition of Escape from LA, and I think one of the features on there they mentioned that.
I mean, the as bad as like the CGI, the thing that bothers me so much in that movie are some of the things that he does. Like the whole basketball sequence is kind of funny. Like just to see, like, it's like if John Wayne was, because that's basically he's Clint Eastwood, John Wayne. Right. And like the scene where he's in the background on the treadmill, things are just funny visual things. But Kurt plays it so straight and so butch that it kind of works. And that's what I love. Big Trouble in Little China is probably my second favorite of the movies, and that's I think because I love that Kurt Russell he thinks he's John Wayne, but he's really like John Wayne's sidekick, because the Asian dude's the real badass of the duo.
Yeah.
But he thinks he's the badass, and he just never does. He never really contributes. He always fucks up or shoots the ceiling and gets knocked out. I mean, I just love.
That was a great part.
Clumsy,
love
clumsy
that.
John Wayne. Yeah.
Or what, like he stabs that one guy, and he's like stuck with him on top of him with the knife. So it's like,
And he doesn't have enough leg strength to get him off of him.
yeah, I mean that's the brilliance of Big Trouble in Little China. I think is like it mocks the action star, the American macho, alpha male, who is actually a klutz or his ego's bigger than his abilities in some ways, and I fucking love that. I think it's out of as great as The Thing is, as great as Escape is. That's my favorite Carpenter, Kurt Russell movie. Just because you don't see, there's nothing else like Big Trouble in Little China at all. There's nothing like it.
No, there's not. It's an odd movie, that's for sure. It's I should have seen it when I was younger because I don't get it. I honestly don't get it.
Keith, are you dead?
Is Keith all right?
He's not feeling good, guys. He's enjoying the conversation. Maybe. I don't know.
Man, that is a tough decision. The Thing versus Big Trouble in Little China when you have Kurt Russell and John Carpenter together.
The Thing's a better movie. The Thing's technically
Of course.
his best film.
Of course.
Yeah, Halloween's my favorite, but The Thing, I would never argue that The Thing doesn't belong at the top of his list.
Big Trouble is not one of my favorite Carpenter movies.
God,
I think it was kind of like more like mid the list.
Bottom of my list. I had
That's fair. That's why we are Discourse.
And again, a lot of it is nostalgia. That's the one I watched a lot. Just like Starman. People don't think about that, but Starman was a great, touching. It was like John almost making it doesn't feel like a John Carpenter movie in many ways. It feels like a movie of the more mainstream, the more Spielberg brand of movie. I think that was his intention, right? He wanted to show that he didn't just make these B exploitation, gore horror movie. He could do anything, and he proved it because that movie was, from what I remember, successful. And you got again Jeff Bridges and Karen Allen they were both great. I always love road movies anyway. Road movies are always fun, and that's a fun road movie.
I agree. It's definitely out of his wheelhouse, but I do think Carpenter can do anything.
Well, he can. He's a very versatile director. I mean, if you think about it, he's mostly known for horror, but he didn't come into horror until like his third movie, and then he did a couple others after that. But then he did Escape, and then he went to Christine, and
And you get Ted White in Starman too, with his deer on his head. Jason. Hey, we skipped over Christine. We need to get Christine. Definitely one of the better Stephen King adaptations.
Oh yeah,
I agree.
Easily. Great soundtrack.
Great performances even too. I mean, I what's his name? Keith something.
Keith Gordon.
Keith Gordon. He was really good. You could see the transition in his character from the beginning when he's like this little nerdy kid who gets pushed around and bullied, and then he's totally confident about like halfway through the film, and then he's completely psychotic by the end. Like there's that scene where he's driving with Dennis and he's talking about something, and like his eyes are just so wide and he's just so creepy and psychotic.
The opening of Christine is probably one of my favorite openings of a movie.
Yeah, it's great. And I'm still the whole work with the car itself is still impressive. Like that scene where it's like driving through and crushing itself as it's trying to get to that guy. That is fucking amazing looking. That today, and then like the part where it fixes itself, where he walks in and says, "Show me."
Yeah,
that still is like they would do that CGI now, and I'm looking at it done practically, and I'm like, how? I'm saying like how I know they did it reverse.
Yeah,
I feel like
right.
how did they even make it implode like that without me seeing something? Like I don't know. It's great.
I was hoping to watch that before the show tonight. I just ordered the 4K because I found it for like $5, and I was like, why not? so hopefully it looks good.
It'll look good on your face.
So what comes next? They Live
Uh,
or Prince of Darkness?
Yeah,
God,
Prince of Darkness was before They Live.
here goes Ray's boner.
That's your favorite, right?
I think it's my favorite. I kind of go back and forth between that and the Thing, and I love that. I mean, In the Mouth of Madness. I love many of his movies, but Prince of Darkness, I think it's underrated. Came out in '87. It's very
Oh,
good.
yeah, definitely
It's I don't
underrated.
think people get it. You know, I think that's part of the problem.
I mean, I've only seen it once, and
You don't get it, do
did,
you?
I did not get it, but I need to revisit
See,
it.
at least you admit that you didn't get it.
I also
I,
watched it on a tiny ass TV with a VHS tape, and
so you did it how I did it then when I first saw it, and I loved it.
yeah, but this
There you
was
go.
like 2 years ago. I need the
Yeah.
Blu-ray. Blew up on my like 65-inch 4K
I
TV.
don't. I don't think it's a bad movie at all. I just couldn't get into it because I get because I mean, he was inspired by Beyond, right? I mean, he's inspired by Italian horror,
They're more
and I've never been a
Argento, I think,
big deal
than
on that. And yeah, and Argento, but
yeah.
I've never been a big into that. So that's really what it was. Like his influences on that are not things that I was a fan of anyway. So as far as what he was doing, he did his job. He did it well. I mean, to me, like the main draw for me was I'm a huge Alice Cooper fan, so to see Alice Cooper in a John Carpenter movie was really cool.
Drove part of a bike into somebody. Yeah.
Started producing movies for John.
The first thing that got me hooked on that Prince of Darkness, for though honestly, it's I think it's got a fun group of characters and they have a lot of fun one-liners, especially what's his name? The Asian guy. I can't think of his name. He was in Big Trouble in Little China. But
yeah.
the music was one of the first things that drew me to it. I didn't see the movie before I heard the like I guess the main theme. It was on one of those Halloween discs, you buy at the Spirit Halloween or whatever. And I bought
Yeah.
one in the mid '90s, and I'm like, oh, cool! It's got the Halloween theme and the Nightmare theme and all this different stuff. And there was one for Prince of Darkness. I was like, what the fuck is this?
It
And I'm
almost has
listening
a.
to it, and I fucking loved it. And I was like, I got to see the movie.
It's a great
Yeah.
score.
Does
Yeah,
it?
absolutely.
Does it sound a little like Day of the Dead score to you? A little like
Maybe
a
a
little
little,
bit in there.
maybe a little.
Like the just I don't know when I hear it, it's a good score. But like
Yeah.
I keep hearing like Day of the Dead sometimes, and which is nothing wrong with that.
No, it's another one that's got a great score. I don't know. That was just one like out of all of the scores on that or the themes on that disc, that was one that really stuck out and it's very powerful. And I'm like, what is Prince of Darkness? I have to see it. And just went and rented it at Blockbuster Video. You gotta love it. And I loved it from then on. And I was very disappointed getting into horror the last few years, finding that it's not as appreciated as a Carpenter movie or a horror movie in general. I think it's way better than a movie like Halloween. And I don't know. Everybody makes their own decisions. Prince of Darkness is really good in my opinion.
Same here. I love Prince of Darkness. I think it's a totally unique movie. I love the story. I love the blend of science and religion, and how the story unfolds with that. And I love the score. I don't mind the 25-minute opening credit scene.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I thought it was an interesting way for him to, because I mean, there's a lot of story in that movie, so he did
really is.
have to kind of, I don't know, tell it in an efficient way, and doing it in between credits, I thought worked pretty well. And I love the ending. I absolutely love the ending when Donald Pleasance throws the axe into the mirror and the girl's trapped inside, and then
get stuck in them. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the tail end where you hear
they're all having that.
Yeah, where that dream comes back and
Yeah.
it's revealed to be her. It's cool.
Everybody who falls asleep is having the same dream, and then at the end you find out it's actually the girl who gets trapped in the mirror. It's fucking brilliant, and
yeah,
so many great scenes. Plus, it has one of the best
Did he freeze?
He froze. He's unstable.
Oh,
So, what are we on? They Live.
If you want.
We're like,
If
yeah,
you
we
must.
got to get going. You don't like that one?
It's okay. It's okay. It gets lumped in with horror movies. I don't believe it's a horror movie. It's decent.
I don't think it's a
not
horror
one of my
movie
favorites.
either, but it's
it's
very
not a horror
inventive
movie.
idea.
It's totally relevant today, especially. It just
But it's kind of an Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is a horror movie, right? I mean, it's not. I mean, it's no one's body snatching, but it's a race here to take over.
to a certain degree, because I mean,
Yeah.
like in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, there's more of a suspense thing going on. There's more of a sort of a paranoia, you know, my husband's not my husband type of deal.
Yeah.
Whereas They Live is more straightforward with the concept of aliens living among us and hiding among us, and telling it in sort of like an action movie.
And people are complicit and don't realize it.
Yeah, it doesn't have like I totally see that comparison to Body Snatchers, totally, but it doesn't have like that level of suspense. I think Invasion of the Body Snatchers did have quite a bit of horror element to it, where They Live didn't.
Yeah, They Live is back to Western shit again. Like it's back to, it's more about Roddy Piper being this great American hero character that we enjoy seeing and listening to, and like he totally leans into the bravado, but also as laid back as he is. Like he's just kind of walking around and checking things out. And it's a really cool character. And Roddy was a really good choice for that. Kind of makes me wish Roddy had even gotten more stuff to do in film. I know he did a few other things, but nothing
Other than
on that level.
Foxtown.
Yeah, and you know, anytime I get to see Keith David, I love Keith David, and he's great in it. Him and Roddy together.
Oh yeah,
the great alleyway fight.
Yeah, the great alleyway fight that South Park mimicked.
South Park, yes. Completely reenacted.
But like I said, it's relevant. It's like, you know, in the 80s, we were totally being brainwashed by consumerism and commercialism and buy them all kids and all that. So, I mean, it was just it's almost a George Romero level social commentary movie that John was doing.
To me, it's still relevant too. Like it's still
very.
Have you seen my background? It's definitely relevant. Consume.
And that's what you do. Consume.
It's like Keith is like Bruce Wayne if his parents didn't get shot.
He's building the Bat Cave back there.
Oh God.
What comes next after that? Memoirs of Invisible Man?
Yep.
Chevy
Good
Chase
movie. I
was
haven't
funny
seen
as
it in
fuck in
years,
that
but-
movie.
It's a good movie though overall. I just haven't seen it since the 90s.
Yeah, I rewatched it a few weeks ago since 92. Is that when it came out? 91,
Yeah.
92. And I enjoyed it. I actually really did enjoy it more than because I remember when it came out, it was just called a disaster. It was just, I mean, all his movies apparently were flops when they came out, but I remember that one in particular was called a big piece of shit at the time when it came out.
Really, I like that. It was
when
on
it came
cable
out, it
quite a
was
bit.
when it came out, it was. I remember the critics and everything. It was considered a turd.
Those critics are assholes.
I mean, it's not a great movie, but it's fun though. I mean, it's not one of his best, but it's
I
got
definitely
enough
want to revisit it.
going for it. You know, I would really like to know how John handled Chevy, because Chevy has a reputation of being like this huge ego asshole, and
Yeah.
I just wonder how John, because didn't like John took over for another director or something, right? Probably because Chevy Chase was I think the original director dropped out because of Chevy Chase being an asshole. I can't remember who it was that was supposed to make it. I'm pretty sure I read that.
I'm looking it up. That sounds like a Chevy Chase thing.
Well, I mean, it was right around the same time he did Nothing But Trouble. They were right around each other.
That's
I
Chevy
remember.
Chase's nickname.
That's a great
Nothing
movie.
but trouble.
Remember, I talked to Jason Lively at a convention, and we were talking about European Vacation. And so
Oh,
it was
God.
like, and he said, "Oh yeah, Chevy did not get along with Amy, the director, very well." He goes, "I remember it was like mom and dad fighting on set, and one
Amy
time, like,
Heckerling?
yeah, and he said like she wanted him to do it one way, and he didn't want to do it that way, and they got in a big old argument." She goes, "All right, I'll let you do it your way, but give me one my way." He goes, "Oh, you mean not funny?"
Jesus.
Hey, kids, Big Ben.
Parliament.
And Carpenter's not like a take people's shit type of.
Yeah, that's how.
He was supposed to do a movie. I forgot what the fuck it was, but he basically said that Dan Aykroyd had a temper tantrum, and so he walked from it. I can't remember what the movie was. Was it Trading Places?
Was it?
Oof,
Maybe.
that would have been weird.
Yeah, like I said, he's not the. I mean, even
that.
even Kurt.
Was
Yeah, Kurt.
Carpenter a part of that production?
What's that?
Was Carpenter part of that production?
Maybe at one
Well,
point.
There's several movies that he was hired, just as director that just didn't fall through.
And that's what people don't. That's another thing about now is if we know so much about that now that when we hear, oh, that director was fired or replaced, we go, oh, well, the producers are out of control, the studio's shits, and they suck. Like this happens all the time, man. If you go, I mean, we just didn't know about it. But Carpenter was probably attached to dozens of projects that got made by somebody else.
He was originally supposed to direct Firestarter, but after The Thing failed, he got fired from that. He was supposed to direct a remake of Creature from the Black
He
Lagoon.
was supposed to direct Santa Claus the movie, apparently.
Yeah, he's supposed to direct Creature from the Black Lagoon, but because of Village of the Damned failing, he was removed from that.
See, I really like Firestarter, but I'd be intrigued to see what
He was
his.
offered Exorcist 3
like.
also.
Yes, yep, that's right.
So I'm looking at some of the things. I don't see Trading Places on here, but I'm seeing a lot of other things.
There was something with Dan Aykroyd.
I don't know.
What would he have done?
They definitely did SCTV, back in the day.
Spies Like Us, maybe.
Oh,
Chevy was in that too.
I love that movie.
Chevy Chase. I have no idea, but there is a gap.
Armed and
in
Dangerous. This
Is
is
it
what
that?
this was going to star Harold Ramis, Dan Aykroyd, and then finally John Candy and Dan Aykroyd with John Carpenter to direct. So
Oh.
Aykroyd and Carpenter both.
Came Eugene Levy and
Yeah, Eugene Levy
John
and
Candy.
John Candy. Yeah.
It's a good movie. I like that movie. I wonder what Carpenter's version would have been like.
No, until Aykroyd and Carpenter both finally left the movie. So I'm guessing that's probably what it was.
So what's
Dan
next?
Aykroyd and leather chaps in that movie. If that's
What comes after Visible
Birds
Man?
of the Damned?
Body Bags.
Body Bags.
Did you guys figure it out? Because I did.
Yeah.
Armed and Dangerous.
I was just reading it.
Yeah, Keith found it.
Seth, you ignore me, dang it.
Fucking technology people.
He's
I
like, I pulled out.
literally Googled John Carpenter and Dan Aykroyd.
Keith goes to Google and Seth's like, I gotta get the card catalog over here.
Yeah, I got my book.
I got my Encyclopedia Britannica.
It's like Seth's the old lady pulling out the yellow pages to find the Pizza Hut number, and I'm just like already on the phone with them.
8393939. 5393939. That was our Pizza Hut.
Body Bags. I just watched this year because I didn't know about it. I really like it. It's one of my favorite anthology movies.
The gas station scene is the best.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, easily, yeah. That's the only part I really like.
Well, I like it, and I like Mark Hamill's. The hair one's fucking weird, but all the anthology movies seem to have really more serious ones, than they have just this goofy bullshit one put in the middle of them. Because
Toby Hooper did the Mark Hamill one, right?
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah.
It was supposed to be a television series originally, and then they just made it the film. They made it a film.
Plus, all the John
Uh,
Carpenter segments are amazing.
it was fun to see him play around and do that the wraparound stuff. Especially like when he's checking out the causes of death, is like severe headache or something. I can't remember what it was like that.
It reminds me of Tales from the Crypt when he did that. Yeah, love that.
And I think he's a better actor than he gives himself credit for.
Yeah.
And I love that we see so many icons in the gas station with Wes Craven and Sam Raimi, and I mean, look, it was kind of like to see all those guys together is a fun thing.
And you have fucking, I forgot his name, but the guy from Revenge of the Nerds is the freaking
Robert Carradine.
God.
That guy's a sweetheart.
Jared, stop impersonating me.
What comes after that? Which one?
The Mouth of Madness.
The Mouth.
Well, they both came out the same year.
Yeah.
I've never seen Village of the Damned.
One of them is definitely better.
Well, I've seen In the Mouth of Madness one time, and I did not like it that much.
Well, something's wrong with it.
I think I fed into the. Everybody was like, "It's so amazing! It's so amazing!" I watched it, and I was just like, I didn't feel it. Like, I got this Stephen Kingish vibe from it, which I get is a kind of a theme in it, but I need to watch it again.
Well, yeah, Sutter Kane is obviously supposed to be King type, but like, I mean, it's a Lovecraft homage, obviously.
Yeah.
It's one of his best.
Oh, I think it is. It's a really good movie. What did you not get about it?
I don't know. It didn't do anything.
Do you not understand stories?
It didn't do anything for me.
Ray, can you find another tech guy? Fire Keith.
God damn it.
That's your favorite movie. That's your favorite Carpenter movie, right?
That's my favorite Carpenter movie, man.
I'm sorry. Out of all the Carpenter movies I've seen, it's not my least favorite, but I like all the other ones more.
Don't stick to your guns. You didn't like it. You didn't do anything for you. Don't turn your belly over and let Seth rub on it.
It's a really creepy movie. I just really creeped out the first time I saw it, and it's one of the best horror films of the '90s.
Oh, absolutely. The one of my favorite things is when they're on their way to Hobbs End. Right before they get there, and all of a sudden they're there. But like getting into the town and meeting the old lady and the painting on the wall, and then there's this black church out in the middle of fucking a giant. The Hobbs End is fucking amazing. All of it's amazing, and how you get deeper and deeper into madness throughout the entire movie. It's fucking watch it again.
I'm going to
put your phone down.
I own it.
Then you'll understand.
I'm reading comments. Damn it.
Oh, that's something I wanted to want. I did, Sam. I always thought Sam Neill was an odd choice for Jurassic Park because he like when he got cast to that part. I wonder if Invisible Man had anything to do with it.
Can you hear me?
Because, I mean, is there any information on that? Because like, Invisible Man was one of the first times I saw Sam Neill really play a character of that. Like, he was a fun character. It was fun, like he always played those dark guys, and so. When I saw him as in Jurassic Park, like who is this? It did resonate, but he's really fucking good in this movie, and I think he's good in everything he does. It really is. But in the Mouth of Madness, I mean, he's real strong in it.
Why is it your favorite, Seth?
I don't know. Like I'm big into Stephen King. I was reading a lot back when I first saw that movie, and I just love the whole concept of something that someone writes becoming reality.
Yeah,
sort of that blur of the lines there, and I think Sam Neill's performance is fantastic in that movie, especially when he tells Sutter Kane that his books suck anyway. I love that. And the whole ending, it was just like when I first saw it, I was like, it kind of stunned me. Like I wasn't expecting the movie to end the way that it did, and I thought it was just I don't know. It's just like one of those movies I can always watch it anytime. Still have a fun time watching it. Keith be damned.
I'm sorry.
was it-
Don't worry. Chris Hall's yelling at me too. He said Keith doesn't like it, Mom. Kick his ass off the show.
First of all, Chris, you said you don't like the thing, so I don't know what to think of right now.
Yeah, Chris, you're gone too.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. I mean, we don't all have to like the same shit.
True.
You know, it's
We all like Carpenter,
It's
and that's
all in
good
good
enough, right?
fun.
No, it's not. So
Fine, I take offense to everything.
We gotta get on to what's the next one? Vampires? Or are we Village of the Dams? We skipped over that.
You've got to
Can't
see
hear
it
you,
from
Ray.
LA.
Village of the End was I like it. It's not like one of his best, but I think that was also another movie where he had studio interference.
Yeah, it was nice having Christopher Reeve. You know.
That was the last movie he did before his accident, right?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a great cast with, Mark Hamill and Meredith Salinger and
Kirstie Alley.
Kirstie Alley. So I mean that's little Thomas Dekker before he was John Connor.
Yep. I like the score for Village of the End as well. I thought it was a really good score.
Yeah, this is one of the other ones I haven't seen, but you said Mark Hamill's in it, so I'm gonna watch it now.
I can't hear you, Ray.
Ray, you're not coming through, bud.
I think I'm accidentally hitting my mute button that I thought was great to be on this mic, and I keep fucking hitting it. So, fuck you, mute button. Village of the Dams is good. Escape from LA is not.
Yeah.
We can bypass. What's after vampires?
Vampire.
I
that's a
love
good one.
vampires.
Yeah.
James Woods amazing, especially when he beats the hell out of a priest and asks him if it's giving him mahogany.
little ebony.
It's one of those great long lines of again the alpha male badass John Wayne tough guy leads, and I like that James Woods told him right, like I never get to be that guy. I never get to be the guy in the sunglasses with the gun who is the badass because he's always like the weaselly sidekick guy or the villain
Or in Casino.
Yeah, he's always because he kind of comes off as a sleazebag type anyway, but he plays a great kind of anti-hero.
I was
in this
surprised
film.
that his performance in that movie. Like, this is James, same guy.
He's
This is
he's
why he's
always
got a high school named after him.
he's always. I mean, I think it's kind of who he is. I mean, that attitude. Like I remember the first time I saw him play anything like that was a movie I saw on my birthday. It was The Hard Way with Michael J. Fox,
Mhm,
where he played
yeah.
the cop that Michael J. Fox is following around. But yeah, it's a fun movie. I like James in that role because it was something we don't see him do or get to do very often.
It was
Great,
good.
great action western vampire movie.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful. And the opening scene, it gets you with the opening scene when they're clearing the house, clearing the nest or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Fucking love that, man.
Yeah.
Such a good movie.
And then when he shows up and just the vampire shows up and just kicks their ass like
Yeah, I mean the movie
single-handedly.
starts off like at a pretty good pace. I mean, you get one first of all the vampire side, and then you get the human side of a massacre. It's great, and then it's kind of a road movie at the same time.
Yep.
Good stuff. Plus the lesser Baldwin is in it. Could they not afford Alec or even Billy? Isn't that who is it?
Daniel Baldwin.
Daniel, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What's
He
next?
does a good job in that too. I thought he
Yeah, he was good. Wasn't that like his only role?
His only he did a lot.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
No,
Yeah,
he was in King of Ants.
King of the Ants.
Yep.
Great villain in that one.
We got two
He did
left.
much better in King of Ants than he did in Vampires.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. He was a fucking dick ass in King of Ants.
And the next movie for Carpenter is Jared's favorite, Ghost of Mars.
I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but I am definitely a very big supporter of the movie because it's fun.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
I couldn't. I couldn't finish it. It was so. To me, it was bad. It was like bad Carpenter imitation or something.
I think it's mostly like the editing that I had a problem with.
Editing is hard to sit there. Yeah,
Yeah.
the editing is really like, what? Why did you do that? Why did you do like the transitions, the
Yeah.
the fade ins between
Yeah.
shots? I'm like, this does not work. And then again, I think it's the casting. I don't think what's her name, Natasha Henstridge. I don't think she's a great actress. I love Ice Cube, but I would have rather seen a really good actor in that part. It's supposed to be
Yeah.
It's supposed to be Snake Plissken, but Ice Cube is not Kurt Russell. And I mean, they could have got, if they wanted a African American to play the part. I think it's maybe studio, because at that point rappers were being cast in everything. But I'd have rather seen Lawrence Fishburne or Sam Jackson or God, any actor, Wesley Snipes, anybody. But Ice Cube in that part, because I love Ice Cube, but it felt phony. It didn't feel authentic to me. He did. He
as
felt
phony
like
as when he played Triple H or Triple X.
Triple X.
I never even watched that one, but I assume, because he's not a real true blue performer. He's really good at being funny, at doing Friday, or what was the one where he played like the police chief? Didn't he play the police chief or something?
21 Jump Street.
21 Jump Street.
Yeah, 21 Jump Street. I mean, when he could be that guy, but when he's trying to play a Snake Plissken type,
A hard ass.
yeah, a hard ass, even though he is an intimidating hard ass dude.
Wasn't he a hard ass in Anaconda?
I just didn't buy him. I think that's what it is. I couldn't get into it because I couldn't buy him as that guy. I couldn't buy, and I was bored by her.
Yeah, I have to watch that one. It's been damn near 20 years since I've watched it.
One of the things I enjoyed was just the idea of the community that was on the planet. Like, they were completely like brainless and mindless and just willing to attack anything. Jason Statham had a really good role in that movie. But yeah, I agree. It kind of felt like just little.
Someone said it was like a greatest hits of John Carpenter.
Yeah,
kind of thing. And to me, it's kind of like, that's how I kind of felt of Avatar. I thought Avatar was like a greatest hits of James Cameron, just not as good as other James Cameron movies. Like, to me, it felt like, I don't want a greatest hits album. Greatest hits album isn't the best album to listen to all the time. It's like, I want to hear the whole complete, the way that it was supposed to be, instead of just, oh, this is my good thing here, and this is my good thing, and this is my good thing. It's again, I think the editing was the editing and the casting. I don't think it's a poorly made movie, or John did a bad job, or that it wasn't a good film. I think it had some missteps.
I think it's fun despite its flaws. There's a couple really fun moments. I've talked to you guys about it before, when the guy cuts off his own thumb trying to impress the prostitute. I laugh every fucking time I see that. It's just, I don't know, it's a fun moment for me. And or like, when what the fuck's his name? We were just talking about him. Ice Cube.
Ice Cube.
When when he's telling his side of the story about how when he first went to the bar or whatever, and he's telling it a certain way, but then you see him like loading up his guns and the reality of it. I kind of like that. That was kind of fun, but it's not one of his best movies for sure, but I don't hate it either.
It's I like every other movie he's made, other than more than I like that one. Maybe that's what.
Even The Ward.
Yeah, I like The Ward a lot more than that one.
The Ward is not bad.
The Ward gets a bad rap. I don't know. I think maybe, what do you think, is his expectation that John Carpenter's back, and no, we can't wait, and then they get something that really didn't feel like a John Carpenter movie, and maybe wasn't. I mean, because most of his movies are testosterone driven. And this is a movie. This the only movie he's made that's really kind of female driven?
Yeah,
Almost an
yeah.
all female cast. So maybe that's what it is.
Other than the ward.
That's
Yeah.
what we're talking about. Wake up.
Yeah, we transitioned into the ward.
Yeah.
That was fast.
And maybe that's what it was. Maybe like this is the only Carpenter movie that doesn't have that State Plissken badass alpha male. Other than Halloween, of course, has Laurie and all that, but this is a female-driven movie.
The only thing I didn't like about the ward, and it's not even the fault of the film itself, is that at the point that movie came out, I've already seen that type of story.
Yeah,
You know,
Shutter Island beat it out.
Yeah, with that, and then even with Identity, I felt did it better.
Identity's
But
such a good movie.
the ward, I actually just watched it for the first time not too long ago, and I put it off for so long, even though I'm a Carpenter fan, because of the reputation it had. And I watched it. I'm like, this isn't as bad as people are saying. It's a fun movie. It doesn't feel like Carpenter at all. Like you were saying, he didn't do the score. His son didn't do the score. It was completely different, but it's not a bad movie.
And then it falls into that, like you said, the predictable. Oh, I saw it coming, or I knew, blah blah blah. Like, and I hear that a lot now. But a lot of movies we all love and are predictable. Like we just, and now we're just all a bunch of jaded assholes who've seen everything. But it is.
Well, I'm not saying so much as far as it was predictable, but it was like I've seen it done better.
Yeah, I mean, how's he going to compete with Scorsese and who did Identity? I forget who did Identity.
James Mangold.
Yeah, and Identity was a great movie.
I freaking love that movie.
So, Masters of Horror, is that the only thing we haven't talked about?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cigarette Burns.
Cigarette Burns is the best Masters of Horror episode, hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the most fucked up, violent, disturbing movie that he's made. It's like, it's crueler than most John Carpenter movies. It's darker than most John Carpenter movies, in my opinion. The world that Norman Reedus goes into, I mean, if you're talking about things we've seen before, it kind of felt like 8mm in some ways. That kind of seedy world of film and trying to find out where this film came from or find that. But I just remember when I saw it, I was like, damn, John went dark on this one. Yeah. I mean, it's a fucked up movie. And it's a frightening movie. So,
that's probably like one of his best scents in The Mouth of Madness.
Oh, easy.
Or, well, I mean, even his best sense vampires, I guess.
I put it in my top 10.
Yeah.
Another one that's on my watch list.
You have to see that.
Then Pro-Life, no. It's okay.
That's one of my least favorites, but I've only watched it the once.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
That's it.
It's almost 10 after.
Ray, have you seen The Ward or Cigarette Burns or Pro-Life?
No, I've never seen Cigarette Burns. I haven't watched The Ward. I believe I do own. I think I own The Ward, but I haven't watched it.
Cigarette Burns is a must-watch.
Is
really good.
That or Assault on Precinct 13? Which one is
both
more?
Both of them are most.
Both.
I think again, both of those movies. Cigarette Burns is in my top 10, without doubt. It's just a great. I mean, Norman Reedus hired to find a film that when people watched it, they all died. Yeah, it's before the whole Daryl Dixon craze, and he was still. I thought that's the thing. Like Norman, I don't say he was never a great actor. I don't think he's the best actor on Walking Dead at all. I think it's a lot of it is the character he played. I think they could have put a lot of different guys on that Daryl Dixon part, and they would have been stars. Because he's the Wolverine character on there. He's the lone wolf, badass anti-hero guy. and you could put anybody in that role. That's going to be the fan favorite. That's how it is.
Yeah.
Like Rick Grimes is Cyclops and Daryl Dixon is Wolverine.
It's a good analogy.
Yeah, it is. So that's our show. We could do final thoughts, but let's not. John Carpenter's a great director, not just horror. He's very versatile. I know I think, I don't know, between Nate called him mom, I think, at one point in time.
I called him mom.
Yeah, mom or dad. Him and Wes Craven are your parents when it comes to filmmaking.
I would say John's dad
John's dad.
and Wes's mom, because John is the
Wes would probably
disciplinary.
be okay with that, as perverted as
John, John is like the disciplinary, straight, old school, hard around the edges business guy, and I think Craven's got more. He's more in touch with. He's making you feel things and think more, and he's more of a. I don't know how to explain it. I think, to me, Wes is. I don't think John gave a shit how you felt. He wasn't trying to touch your heart or anything like that. He was just telling you a badass story or a cool story. Whereas Wes, I think, had a little more, if I gotta say, feminine quality to his storytelling.
Well, I mean, he went to school for psychology, right?
Yeah, he's a psychology guy. So
yeah,
and I think there's more. I always say I go to him more for the writing than the directing. I go to John Carpenter for my influence as far as filmmaking and how to make a film and how to edit or frame a shot or move a camera. Or I look at John for pacing and things like that. Whereas I don't really look at Wes for that. Wes, as far as that, I look at Wes. I think Wes had great imagery. Nightmare on Elm Street has some amazing images that just stick to you. And again, it goes to the psychology thing. But to me, John is the technician. Wes is more of the mind, like the soulful guy, I think, more of what it is.
Interesting. And Seth, do you have anything else you want to say about Carpenter before we wrap it up?
Nothing I haven't said already. I mean, I love his work. I love his style. His style was when I was discovering his films, I was starting the process of learning screenwriting, and it was very liberating for me to see his stories unfold and to see that his stories were told his way. Of course, I learned since that's not the conventional way of how things happen, and that's not how Hollywood works. But for me, it was just like I looked at his movies and I was like, cool, if I don't want to have a happy fucking ending, I don't have to. And that kind of stuck with me.
He does have some of the best endings in all of film. So thanks everybody for watching and hanging out and tuning in and all that other good stuff. We'll come back on Thursday with another episode. I think we're talking about Fright Night. And there are 4 of them total. Don't forget to check.
One.
Huh?
I've only seen one, I think. I
like 2. 2's good.
I didn't even know there's 4.
Well, there's
What was a remake, right?
2 remakes. Yeah, the remake of 1 and remake a sequel to the remake. I can't say it's a remake.
Sequel to the remake.
I didn't even know there was a sequel to the remake.
Yeah. Don't even watch it. It's garbage.
It's almost as good as Vampires Los Muertos. But anyway, yeah, check out the Horror Syndicate on YouTube. We're trying to get to 250 subscribers. We're at 234 right now. Nate has a great video called Midsummer is Not Just the Wicker Man. It is a good video to watch and a lot of insight as usual. And then, Seth has Stakeland, Late Phases, and Stakeland 2. And my videos are bad. Just don't watch them. So we'll be back on Thursday. I'll do another pre-show if you guys like that. If not, then I don't know what to tell you. But thanks for joining us tonight. For Nate, for Keith, are you still there? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. For Seth and Jared, we'll see you on Thursday.